The only thing that I think that has ever confused me in movies is time travel. Let me try to explain this so that you guys understand. Imagine this. Oh shit. Wait. Imagine this is your line, right? Imagine this is your timeline, right? Most movies, they have, just a simple timeline, It's like if I don't know, if Martin Luther King gets assassinated, right? Then Obama will become president. Everything, I don't know, everything just stays in the line how it was originally in the past. So if you're here and you go back in time, the Revolutionary War will still happen. The Civil War will still happen. Slavery will still be abolished. Just stuff like that will always happen if you go back in time. But what I never fully understand is when people break the cycle, how that works. If you break the cycle of your timeline. Let me try to explain. So imagine this line right here is my timeline. Let's say there's this woman named Susie. Susie is in here. She lives in 2030. Susie lives here in 2030. Okay, let's say she makes time travel in 2030. She goes back in time. Okay, she goes back in time to, let's say, the 2000s, right? She's in the 2000s, right? She's all the way over here, right? She's here. She goes back in time 30 years, where she first realized that what she wants to do with her life is invent time travel. And so she invents time travel in 2030, goes back to when she was, let's say, 15 or 16 years old, right? And she's now back, and she tells her younger self, hey, I don't want you to invent time travel. Don't do it. People die. It's not safe. Blah, blah, blah. So now, here's where it gets interesting, right? Now, you have Susie going back to tell younger Susie not to invent time travel. So now, when older Susie goes back to the future, to her present, right? When she goes back here, technically, she can't. Because time travel never exists. Because when she went back, and technically she wouldn't have any way to get back to the future. She wouldn't have any way to get back to her time. And so if she goes back, says, hey, don't invent time travel, she now has no way to get back, because in her time travel never existed. And so she has no way to get back, and she wouldn't even know how to get back. Because she told her younger self not to invent time travel. Now, let's go back and talk about another thing that confuses me with time travel. This is still our timeline, right? This little fine edge right here. This is still our timeline, okay? Don't forget. Okay, so now Susie has no way to get back to her time because time travel doesn't exist anymore, and because she lost the interest in time travel, she now doesn't know how to do time travel because she never wanted to pick it up when she was a kid. Is this starting to make sense? And now here's what always confuses me, right? If time is a continuous loop, right? She's going to keep going back. She's going to keep going back for over and over and over again. It doesn't matter at what point she decides to go back. She's always going to go back and tell younger Susie, hey, you know what? Don't invent time travel, right? But now here comes paradox number one. Paradox number one is she decides to go back in time and tell Susie not to invent time travel. That breaks the loop. Because now, right, and this is where it starts to get confusing inside of my head, so just bear with me. No clue if this is going to make sense, but Susie goes back in time, right? Says, hey, don't invent time travel, right? And so now there's a paradox, because if time is a continuous loop, right, younger Susie will grow up into present Susie in 2030, but she's never going to invent time travel, which means that her going back in time would just break a loop that never happened, and there would be no loop in the world in their timeline. Am I making sense? I don't know if I'm making sense. And so if she never goes back, right, and she just never goes back, and so, she never goes back to, continuously tell her younger self not to invent time travel, then a Susie in another dimension is gonna have to, go back in time to tell younger Susie I don't even know what I'm saying. Help. Okay. If Susie goes back and tells younger Susie not to invent time travel, younger Susie will never grow up to invent time travel to continue the loop of older Susie going back to tell younger Susie not to invent time travel. But then if she goes back and says, hey, don't invent time travel, then how would they go back to tell younger Susie in the first place not to invent time travel if time travel is a continuous loop? Did that cook? Does it make sense? Do I make sense? And so that's just what I never understand about time travel movies. Because every single time travel movie is make ripples, not waves, right? Because if you go back in time and you just, I don't know, eat a hot dog, that's not doing anything for the future. That's not doing anything. But if you go back in time and stop the Civil War, that's a wave, not a ripple. Okay, that's a wave that will permanently alter the course of the future. And so from this point of you stopping the Civil War up to the future to where you were born, you could potentially not even be born, right? You're used to a timeline where the Civil War happened and then, I don't know, the Revolutionary War, all that shit, right? I'm saying this based off of like real life historical events, by the way, if that just didn't make any sense. So now, I don't remember where I was going with this. So then, if you go back in time and you stop the Civil War, right? You go back and stop the Civil War. There's a chance that because you changed your immediate timeline, there's a chance that when you go back, you no longer exist in the present. You no longer exist. Maybe your parents never got together, right? Because if the Civil War happened, that's just what happened in your life. But now if the Civil War doesn't happen, it's not going to be the same stuff in your life. And so it's not going to be the same stuff. Your parents might not even know each other, right? And then you have a paradox because if you go back and stop the Civil War, now you technically shouldn't exist, right? And so that's paradox number 3 or 4. Anyway, I hope this made sense. And if it didn't make sense, I really don't know how to help you, right? This has always just confused the hell out of me. I don't know. Maybe I just needed a yap about something. I don't know. Anyway, in case I don't see ya, have a great morning, evening, or good night.